We hereby designate September the 15th, 2012, as consideration of default state of war with Syria. With consideration of the Military Sequester Prevention Act of 2012, Article 1, Section 8 determines that the power to declare war resides with Congress, and that no appropriation shall be made longer than 2 years to raise and support an army. Congress has until October the 15th, 2012 to make a formal declaration of war against President Assad for the deaths of nearly 30,000 Syrians with 300,000 refugees, for no resolution in nearly 2 years to resolve these matters of Assad's own country or the presence of al-Qaeda in Syria. Assad's refusal to cooperate with the UN and accept Envoy Annan's offer for security and transition cannot relegate the preservation of the sovereignty of Syria to imperil the peace and security of Syrians and the rest of the world. Envoy Brahimi's visit indicates that the UN resolution was not respected and will never be respected because it is a secular solution to sectarianism. However, the Global Counterterrorism Council proposed a mutual agreement to lay down arms for Ashura in respect of religious considerations, with the guarantee of Assad stepping down. But since last Sunday, al-Qaeda has derailed these negotiations by laying claim to aspiration of assassinating Assad and claiming Syria as their own, hijacking the once peaceful Syrian Revolution, who wanted Sunni representation in a Shia-controlled government. Reports now indicate that there is an open season of violence in Syria. Once a government genocide, Syria has now mushroomed into a civil war, and Syria has been totally engulfed in the tide of war since last week. Damascus and Aleppo are now circular ruins carved into the landscape, and those who did not take calls to flee are returning just to get what is left and leave the region. Assad has pushed us to this resolution of a default state of war by being guilty of providing harbor and sanctuary to our enemies al-Qaeda. The petition declares this expiration period to be October the 15th, 2012. Petition for consideration of a formal declaration of war against Syria. Assad has several options to avoid a formal declaration of war by Congress. Cooperate with UN resolution transition or step down voluntarily. Let the petition expire to a default state of war. Agree to transition with the help of Morsi, or if Assad sees that as surrender, he may negotiate with the United States. As we do not want Assad assassinated for al-Qaeda to claim that as victory, though we have reservations that Assad is a murderer of his own people. Appoint a successor so that Syria may be free from interference from UN and allied countries' pressure upon Assad. Failure to do any of these things could result in Assad's death, more turmoil and death for Syrians, and a far cry from the vision of reform government of the Syrian rebels who have now been permeated and dominated by the presence of an al-Qaeda regime hostile takeover. Assad failing to act on those options to avoid a declaration of war will result in default. May this hereby determine the course of budget for 2013 and 2014. Our military will not be given a blank check on Syria, and we look to close this conflict in Syria without an all-out declaration of war against Syria to preserve its people, to draw a formal conclusion to war and any form of occupation or military aid with our 2014 withdrawal from Afghanistan. This term of engagement, its undermining of our country, its finances and security since September 11, 2001. Operations required to secure Syria and respond to Allied support with Israel includes the following: use of Tartus ports for our Navy to deliver supplies and secure a safe zone by sea, air, and land, use of Libyan airspace in Tripoli, use of Damascus as a base to take it back from an al-Qaeda-dominated area, use of Cyprus for backup support, Navy, and operational support. The safe zone will include the entire southwestern border from Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea to prevent al-Qaeda aspirations from running missiles of any kind, nuclear or biological weapons from crossing into a proximity that endangers Israel. All al-Qaeda's purpose for taking Damascus is to use it as a launch pad against Jerusalem. Al-Qaeda will stop at nothing to get nuclear weapons. The particular concern is that since Iran has been fully nuclear since March, that these weapons are in development, 5 of them, and Al-Qaeda will attempt to steal them or use them on Israel instead of Iran using them for defense without a contingency security plan in place by September the 20th, 2012. Without an agreement that Iran won't remain complicit in these matters regarding Hezbollah, where Hezbollah would then rather transfer or trade these weapons to Al-Qaeda to stage an attack on Israel. Coordination will require Israel's cooperation and support to maintain stability in negotiations and intelligence sharing. The conclusion of this declaration will expire on October the 15th, 2014. All appropriations, expenses, and projects are to be reported and analyzed monthly by Congress to the conclusion of this safe zone establishment, for its use to stabilize the region and to use the safe zone to draw a formal conclusion of both use of the safe zone and withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2014. No further appropriations may be made for either after September 30th, 2014, without thorough re-examinations of yearly appropriations for our military and incurred expenses and any and all diplomacy spending in countries with anti-American sentiment. Let this petition and declaration be made with the full faith and credit that Congress and our military will take appropriate and swift action to avenge the death of our ambassador in Libya and his staff, and to bring an appropriate and timely end to war here and abroad formally by exacting appropriations and use of force by October the 15th, 2014.